Welcome to Builder Nation. In today's episode, we introduce Octane Coffee, a company streamlining the coffee experience with high-tech automated drive-thru kiosks. Focused on speed and quality, Octane Coffee delivers custom-made coffee in under 30 seconds using premium locally roasted beans. With a smart brewing system triggered as you approach, they are redefining convenience for coffee lovers. Keep watching as we explore how this tech-driven solution is reshaping the coffee industry. Today we are joined by Adrian Deasy, founder and CEO at Octane Coffee. Welcome, Adrian. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Good morning.
Okay, so you study mechanical engineering and had been working as a manufacturing engineer and project engineer for the last 8 years in different companies. What inspired the creation of Octane Coffee?
So Octane Coffee, we as a bunch of consultants, we're working on custom robotic cells, automated machines, tooling and fixtures, primarily for manufacturing. And we saw that once we had done all the engineering, the design, the electrical, the layout, it was sad that there was never going to be a machine number 2, number 3, number 4. And so we saw an opportunity here to design something that used all of our skill sets and basically was a customer-focused automated solution that would provide kind of powerful daily automated solution to someone's problems. And so the earliest genesis of the idea was that we were actually walking through a big convention down in McCormick in Chicago, and the line for the Starbucks was up and around the Skyway and around the corner. And I happened to be walking with a buddy of mine, and I said, hey, why haven't they automated this yet? Obviously the coffee's good, they can market it really well, they can fill a walk-up, they can fill a drive-through, but this experience sucks. Standing in line for 20, 30 minutes or sitting in a car waiting at the drive-through lane, this experience sucks. There's got to be a better way to do it. So I made this offhand comment. Little to my knowledge, he went and did 2 or 3 months worth of research and came back to me. He's like, hey, that robotic coffee idea you had. And I was like, well, it wasn't really an idea, it was just me complaining. And he goes, no, you should do that. So he actually put the first $50,000 into the company. This was late 2018, early 2019, and we were off to the races. So our project was always to reinvent the drive-through coffee experience from start to finish. And basically we wanted to accomplish that using mobile ordering apps, which were commonplace. People were carrying around iPhones and Samsung phones back in the day. But this was 2018, 2019 in a pre-COVID world. You could barely reserve a table on the internet, let alone order your coffee and grab everything to go. So we thought we were going to have to drag people kicking and screaming into this vision of the future that we had, let alone build out a couple of prototypes kind of in through 2019 into early 2020, and then COVID struck. So we had the technology back then, and we saw all of a sudden the project that we were going to do, that building got shuttered for 18 months due to COVID. So thank our lucky stars, we didn't end up moving forward with that project at the right times. And now all of a sudden, we zoomed into this post-COVID world that the customer's already alive, ready to go, and demanding this type of experience. So they want mobile-only ordering. So our vision of no lobby, no bathroom, no employees on site, this kind of contactless, very quick experience is now commonplace. There's a lot of companies that are doing that. So we're playing catch up a little bit, but we're still doing it with our secret sauce of full automation from start to finish. So all drinks are prepared by industrial robotics, like you said in the intro, as you're still driving. So we've got it timed to a science that the robot is placing the cup in the window right as you're pulling up to pick up your drinks. So everything, we have regular customers doing things in 10 seconds or less. It is lightning fast. So we hope to continue the growth, add customizations, features, and continue developing our package, whether it's the hardware, the software, the commercial real estate that we're working with, and continue growing here in America. So we're excited. We are currently working on Generation 2 architecture. So
yeah, that's crazy because, as you said, it's totally useful to have something like this, because you just wait in a normal coffee shop, in a Starbucks, whatever, you wait 20, 30 minutes for one coffee, and sometimes you are hurried to go to your office, to your home, and you have to wait. It's like sometimes you lost time just to stay in a line. Doesn't make sense.
No, for sure. And there are statistics out there from Starbucks, Dunkin', Caribou. They call it bulk. They know that there's a significant amount of customers that would come and buy coffee, but they see how long the line is and they continue on down their way and they head to a different coffee shop. So there's many options out there in the marketplace, but we hope to have, basically our three big pillars are value, speed, and convenience. So we want to be the fastest drive-through that you can do. We also price our products very competitively. We want to be 10 to 15% cheaper than a typical Starbucks in our area. And as well as basically that speed. We're trying to do things in 10 seconds or less. We've also got very premium coffee. So we've got, as you mentioned in the intro, we've got Stone Creek Coffee as our local partner here in Milwaukee. They've been in business 30 plus years and they're well known in the area for having some of the best roasted beans. So we're excited to have them on board.
Yeah, and now that you mentioned Stone Creek Coffee, how this collaboration helped to shape Octane's coffee menu and recipes?
Yeah, so the owner over there, Eric Resch, did invest in our company. So he was a big vote of confidence behind our coffee program. He helped develop kind of the early menus. He had a lot of his technicians in helping us dial in our machines for the best taste and quality with his incoming beans. And so with that, there's obviously, he's got lots of data, lots of science, lots of numbers behind what sells in a coffee shop, especially here in the Milwaukee area, and what things should be priced at, what the flavors should be, what we should do for menu changes. Welcome to coffee shops are seasonally changing things. So he's definitely involved behind the scenes helping us with our menu and features and customization. So we're actually taking it even a step further and stepping outside of the typical Stone Creek coffee ethos. Is they've got cafe spaces. They like to be known for that human experience, the sights, the smells, the ambiance, the barista, that whole experience. So for us, we wanted to make sure, that we were not competing head to head, that we're actually collaborative, and we service a very different customer. Stone Creek customer loves coffee and they love to kind of sit down and enjoy that local cafe style experience. We're aimed at more of the corporate coffee customer, the Starbucks, the Dunkin', the Caribou, people who are driving through and don't really care whose name is on the side of the building.
Yeah, and the people that want everything fast, like really like on the way.
Yes.
Yeah, and how do you think that your engineer background, your mechanical engineer background, influenced the design of Octane Coffee, or what skills do you think that you brought into this project?
Yeah, so engineering at its core, whether it's mechanical, electrical, industrial, all the different facades of engineering, is all about solving problems. And ironically, a lot of those same mentalities and skill sets translate very well to the business world. So obviously engineers, typically numbers-minded guys, we can double check and make sure things are going to be efficient from a finance and economics perspective before we even get started. So I spent another couple months before we ever bought equipment and tried to do anything to just say, like, hey, does this business plan work? How do the competitors in the space go about this? What are their costs of goods? What are the economies of scale? How do they make money in coffee? And how can we flip it and twist it and squeeze it in a different way and make it our own? So no, my background in engineering, like I said, solving problems. Business is about solving a customer's problem. In this case, we're solving the time constraint problem. I need a coffee. Like, coffee is one of those very universal things that if you know, and you need a coffee right then and there. And so we hope to fill that gap. Doing it in a very unique and fully automated robotic way is not something that was necessarily rolled out at scale. There's obviously been cute prototypes and a couple other competitors in the space. They all seem to focus on the cute little walk-up vending machine at like arena, which we basically decided we didn't want to play in that sandbox. It's a vertical we can go into eventually, but we really honed in on the drive-through, outdoor, standalone. That style of experience was the pinnacle of convenience. Mm-hmm. So we knew that that's where the volume was, that's where the dollars were, that's where all the big competitors were going. And then fast forward, that was our hypothesis back in 2018, 2019, that most customers, even at Starbucks, didn't go in and sit and use it like a meeting space, or meeting friends, reading books, sitting on a laptop. That we hypothesized that was a very small percentage of the population. So during COVID, as soon as that hit, the Kevin Johnson, CEO at that time, put out a big statement that was 80% of Starbucks customers pre-COVID were already on-the-go style customers. They were waiting in line, grabbing their coffee and going. They weren't staying, they were going through the drive-thru. So he's like, hey, we're fine. To us, that was a big call that was like, yeah, we thought so too. Obviously, it's not part of their marketing. And they have radically changed direction in a post-COVID world, as of a lot of the different, say, small format coffee drive-thrus that basically any location that Starbucks is opening these days must have a drive-thru. They won't open a location if it doesn't have a drive-thru.
Yeah, that's true. That's totally true.
It's a big change in, say, the real estate space that we're now competing against. Starbucks, Dutch Brothers, Seven Brew, Mercury's, BlackRock, Human Bean, all these other small format concepts that really had their start 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago that we're struggling to catch up. So for us, we need to be smaller, we need to be faster, we need to be more efficient and having a better customer experience all around. So that's definitely what we're focused on in these upcoming years.
Yeah, and I was also watching a video that how this works and how it's possible to have everything in 30 seconds when you arrive. So can you explain to the people how this smart brewing system operates as customers approaching to the kiosk?
Yes. So in this case, we don't speed anything up. We don't cut any corners. We don't do Keurig style coffee where it's coming out in 10 seconds, nothing like that. So no, this is premium quality coffee that's all brewed, basically ground to shot to extracted to everything right before you arrive. So we actually have data and timings on, say, like lattes, standard lattes. That's a big staple of what we sell. So like we know that takes 88 seconds to make a specific style of latte. We ping customers' GPS and we figure out when they're about that 88 seconds away. We release it into the production queue. We've obviously got data about what is already in queue, in progress, the loading on the machine. So we actually adjust and play with that release timing so that we know that drink is going to be as hot and ready, or we've got cold drinks as well, cold and ready as it can be as it hits the window. So we do ping customers' GPS as they're rolling up into the drive-thru lane. We're still pinging GPS a little bit, but a different frequency and a different way of doing things. So we can ultimately, basically, what do I say? We want the customer experience to be as magical as possible. The best technology should be synonymous with magic. So we want someone to roll up and have this experience of the window's open, that's my name on a cup, I grab my drink and I drive away, and I want them to have this, how did it work? How did it know I was here? How did it go? I wanted there to be this mystery behind it a little bit that would kind of fuel the, well, how does it work? And so part of that is that algorithm, the release, the GPS timing, that we're basically making sure that the system is able to deliver that experience reliably to hundreds of customers a day.
Yeah, and that's crazy because I watched the video how this works. And for me, it was crazy because sometimes people said like, yeah, but you go to a coffee shop for the experience that you have there, that you have around you. But for me, this is also an experience that you order your coffee, and then when you arrive, as you said, you have something that is flipping and appears your coffee. It's like, for me, it's a total experience to just go to grab my coffee like that fast.
Yeah, no, we tried to figure out like what are things that we could do with machines, with computers, with robotics at scale that a human barista, a human employee cafe shop would never be able to replicate. So we do a custom inkjet printed label on your cup. So it would say something like Adrian's double vanilla latte, have a nice day. And we've got a bunch of little cheeky messages that we do in there. But for us, it was trying to bring that little bit of humanity back into the process. What are things that we could leverage? How do we give someone a better experience overall?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And I was so impressed when I saw how this works. And now that you are explaining more, it's like, whoa, it's really crazy. But also another question that came to my mind was, how is the maintenance requirements for the Octane Coffee kiosk, and how do you keep it so minimal? Because as you said, you don't have a barista or an employee all the time there. So how you do that?
Yes, so that was obviously a big challenge, figuring out how to run this equipment 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. So we have been open and running 24 hours since last October. So we're coming up on our kind of 1 year mark of full, basically lights out operation. We do still stop by. We have Java techs, we really like to call them. So they're kind of like, I would say, medium level technicians that know the equipment, know enough to be dangerous, but they're not a full engineer. But so we stop by once a day with one person for about a half hour to an hour's worth of labor to clean the machines, restock things. All of the coffee makers have automated cleaning procedures for their coffee chambers as well as the milk systems. So they basically are running a flushing and cleaning procedure every day, as well as we're restocking all the cups, lids, beans, syrup, the consumables in the machine. So it's a pretty quick and painless process. we foresee having, say, one Java tech driving around in a transit van, a Sprinter van, to 3 to 5 locations, and that's their daily task, is basically, hey, we're going to restock these 5 locations. Here's all the consumables that they would need. So we've obviously got all the data coming off of each location and each kiosk. Hey, I went through 500 cups. I went through 20 gallons of milk. I went through all this syrup and beans and all the different consumables. It's already tracked. So when they come and they're going to load the van for the day, it's basically all preset and ready to go for them to go and restock those kiosks back to full capacity and then get on with their day. So we're definitely aimed at one human in basically an hour or less per day per location. So at the same time, we've got a lot of software running, whether it's inside the kiosk or up in the cloud. That is, we've got cameras all over the unit. We've got data and sensors, and we call it active inventory management. So we know just about what's going on at any given time. We're taking pictures of every single cup that's running through systems. We can run them backwards through some AI and double checking fill levels and color and all these weird little parameters that we've learned over the years have become very important. So no, every single shot is basically got data. Every drink that's coming through, we're streaming the data back, and if any of the parameters are starting to trend negatively, we can make corrections and or we can tag that machine for maintenance in the next couple days or hours. So we can take care of things. We can typically find a failure before it happens.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
one of the funny questions that people always ask me is they're like, well, so this is running 23 hours a day, lights out, there's just a robot in there. We got some cameras, we got other things. So like, there's humans involved, but physically the door is locked. There's no one there.
Yeah.
So they're like, what breaks first? Is it the robot? Is it the coffee makers? Is it part of these custom systems that we've built, from cup dispensers, lid dispensers, syrup? What breaks? I always tease people, the robot and the system at large typically doesn't break. It's actually usually a human error that causes problems. So the Java tech in the morning connected a line and it didn't quite pop it. And so now all of a sudden the almond milk is flowing a little slow, or we forgot to connect it totally, or we pinched a line. Goofy little things like this that typically, or we forgot to restock the 12-ounce cups and we had to end up like we sold them out for the day and we continued moving on. So it's one of those funny, it's not the system, now it's the people. Mm-hmm. So as we're designing things and as we're designing the maintenance procedures for this next generation location, it's like, okay, what are things that can go wrong? How can we automatically check it, identify it? Because you want to flag it and say, hey, before you leave and head to the next location, you got to fix this. So it's like, catch it early, catch it often, and catch it when someone's on site to be able to fix it. So there's definitely a lot of emphasis there, but we like to say that you don't know what you don't know. So it's funny to think like, oh, that'll never happen. We'll never forget to restock that. And it totally does happen. Yeah. So it's now, how do we build on top of our existing systems to prevent that from happening? So there's a lot of that thought that's gone into it after the fact.
Yeah, and hearing you, I realize that, of course, during all this process, developing this product, you probably have faced many challenges with this. Yeah. So I want to know
for sure.
What's the first challenge that you faced, or the most important, the most significant challenge you faced during all this time?
Yeah. So I mean, everybody always likes to joke. They're like, well, coffee with robots, how hard could it be? Wow. So you got to be good at all of these various disciplines to pull off a business like Octane Coffee. So one, you got to have the hardware chops. You got to be able to build things. We do a lot of 3D printing, CAD modeling. We have a router and a CNC mill in the back. So like, we're physically building things all the time. So we're continuing development and R&D and even just fixing old things that are broke. So you got to be really good at hardware. You got to be really good at software. So you got to have an excellent customer experience with a mobile ordering app, the database, the kiosk software itself has to be really good to be able to function 24 hours a day without having bad lines and bugs and things that happen inside of software. So you got to be really good at that. You've got to be really good at the marketing and branding and just the image and presence of Octane Coffee. So that's a whole different hat that I sometimes have to put on, of like my marketing hat, what can we do to really showcase what we've built? Because you could build the coolest thing ever, but if people don't know about it, if people don't know how it works, and they don't trust you, your business isn't going to go anywhere. The next big silo is definitely the real estate portion. So yes, we're small, yes, we're hardware, but we still operate within the real world. So a lot of our licenses, regulations, the people that come in and inspect things, you got to make sure that it's up to their standards, it meets their criteria, and it can get signed off. And that goes anywhere from UL to local city to state to even national and federal level. So like there's all sorts of people involved. And one of the biggest hurdles in the very beginning was I spent 6 months just trying to figure out, what have I built? Because at a certain point, there isn't a category, it doesn't exist for the product that we've made. So it's a fully self-sufficient outdoor kiosk that effectively sells coffee in a drive-thru. So the most lateral thing that you can look at, the most comparable thing, is either like an ATM or a vending machine. Mm-hmm. So then you start backwards building. You're like, well, if I'm going to be a vending machine, what do I have to make? Am I a kitchen appliance? Am I a this or that? Because it's like there's different requirements and different regulatory agencies for each of those different items. So in the end, dirty secret is, yes, we are a vending machine. We had to go through vending machine approvals. So the coffee is excellent. It's not vending machine coffee.
Yeah.
We always have to fight that stereotype. But that was the most apt description that already had a regulatory framework. It had the agencies. It had the paperwork. So like that was the best path forward to get us to market. So it's definitely been, it was a challenge of just like, well, what the heck have I built? Like I knew intrinsically, I had the vision of, well, here's what I want the customer experience to be. Here's how I want the machines to work. Here's the format and how it's going to fit. But it's just like at the end of the day, there's people behind the scenes that have to sign their name on pieces of paper that let you do those things. So a lot of it is the sales process, the pitching to investors, raising the money to be able to do this project. But it's also making the sale to regulatory agencies, local municipalities, state level organizations, federal level stuff. So it's a big, hairy deal. And so
yeah.
what we've built, what we've done is not easy. And I have to remind myself that other, like say, our new employees, people we're hiring 18 months ago, it was myself full-time and Lucas, my software guy, half-time. So it was like 1.5 people got that first kiosk out in the wild, built, serviceable, almost ready to sell coffee, especially at that moment in time, 18 months ago. Fast forward, just this summer, we had 4 summer interns. We have 7 full-time people. We have 3 or 4 part-time guys between marketing and software and Java tech stuff. So like we were quickly a team of 15 people. And so just mentally, me as an engineer, me as a business owner, me as an entrepreneur, I definitely had to grow out of the role of like, here, let me do that. Let me tinker, let me play, let me design, because that's what I'm passionate about. I like to build stuff. Mm-hmm. But I had to put on my, okay, I can't physically do all the things that we need to do. Who can we trust? Who's got the competent skills? Who can we challenge to get these certain pieces done? But at the same point, like, I have to sit back and support where I can. And so like, I have to focus on the things that only I can do realistically and be comfortable ceding that responsibility to someone else. So there's plenty of times where I'll walk up on a design, or like we do CAD reviews all the time. I'll walk up, I'm like, why did you do that? What, like, you spend a lot of time, like, what are you doing? And I got to step back and be like, this is their baby.
Yeah.
I need to stay out of it and focus on how do we get to that next level? How do we plan for 6 months, a year, 2 to 5 years down the road and start getting those pieces in line? So it's hard, but I'm a doer. I like building things. So it's hard to sit back and be that managerial person that I typically did everything for myself for the first couple of years in this business. So it's a growth. It's a change. It's a challenge, and it's not always fun. It can be challenging.
Yeah, of course, and it's important also to build a good team that is going to with you in the same way. No, like you need to find the persons that have maybe the same vision as you to go to achieve something. As you said, now that you have 15 employees, you have to trust on them or on their capacities, because of course you are not able to do everything by yourself. So I think that's really important to build a good team.
Yes, and as much automation as we do, like that's what we do. We build robots, we build software, we build automation. There's so much. They talk about AI, they talk about, oh, it's coming for the jobs or whatever. It's like, it can augment, it can help, it can assist, but the team of people that we've built would be nearly impossible to assemble from, and AI, whatever. Like, so it's funny that like humans are always going to be important. Humans are always going to be necessary. Humans are always going to need to be there to build things. So as we're hopefully scaling next year to be building 10, 15, 20 kiosks in the upcoming years, that's going to be a lot of people. Like, we're not going to be able to automate the production. So like, here comes production staff and all the problems that come with that. But this is what it takes to build a business like this. So we definitely are excited to continue growth and hopefully be a big success story.
Yeah, I know that you are mentioning business. In today's business, what are the challenges that you are facing probably in the procurement process or the supply chains?
Yeah, we haven't seen too many supply chain issues. Everything's pretty much resolved as of now. We're weird in that we like to buy parts of big assemblies and not everything. So like, we'll typically repurpose one or two random spare parts from a big assembly for our purpose and needs. Otherwise, we'd be spending crazy amounts of money just to throw a bunch of sheet metal and electronics and stuff that we don't want away. So we get stuck in that, well, you want that one weird part. It might take 6 weeks or whatever, but we're not months out on anything. Say from the consumable standpoint, no issues there. From the coffee, milk, syrup, beans, no issues from that standpoint. Shipping containers even come down a lot in price from a couple of years ago. Welcome to just all the shipping nightmares and things that went on. We do house our automation package inside of 20 and 40-foot shipping containers. So you got to keep your finger on the pulse of that industry as well. But no, just in terms of, I would say the restaurant industry. So whether you're talking about drive-thru coffee shops, fast food that also have drive-thrus, kind of this QSR, quick service retail, is rapidly evolving in the years past COVID. So labor shortages are huge. Every bar, restaurant, coffee shop, everybody we talk to is hiring constantly. And so this was definitely not something that we could have planned for, not something we thought was going to be real, was this huge, massive labor shortage. But on the flip side, a lot of the big major players in our industry and other QSRs are seeking to add automation very heavily over the next 5, 10, 20 years. Like, this is the path forward. The demand for food, the demand for these services has not waned and in fact increased. They're just doing it a little different. So it's funny to think that a lot of these big, massive corporate restaurants or franchise groups, we solve a very unique problem for them that we hypothesized was very expensive back in the day. And now it's just non-existent. They can't pay enough to even keep people around. Like, that sounds very negative, but it's a weird world post-COVID. So definitely not something we could have planned on, but all good winds blowing in our direction.
Yeah, and I think that after COVID, many people realize that many things can be automated. Like, you don't need to stay in a queue for a long time. You just order on your phone or in an app or something like that. So I think we realize that we are able to have automation for many things.
Yes, and this on-demand economy is only going to get crazy. So, like, no, there's definitely many chats of like, what is the future? Where are we headed? And just I think we're on a good trajectory. And from the rumblings that we've heard from some of the other major players, this sort of stuff is coming to your main street soon.
Yeah, and you are talking now the future. What do you are working on, or maybe your team? Or I like to ask, maybe, what is the dream for Octane Coffee in the next years for you?
Yeah, so we're heads down, focused on Generation 2 architecture, which will be very much manufacturing spec. So the first one was definitely a one-off prototype. We could probably replicate it at some scale, but it just doesn't make a ton of sense in today's marketplace. So now, focused on Gen 2, this is the framework that we would actually build boutique manufacturing. building 5 units a year, 10 units a year, and starting to scale from there. So for us, it's basically franchising is top of our mind. We've got a list of 2,300 people that have reached out to us over the years. And I think probably 2,500 of that in the last 6 months. We got some great noticeable press. But it's demand for our types of systems all over the United States as well as all over the world. So Middle East, Africa, Australia, Europe, South America, Canada, like it's wild to know the people that we've had conversations with that are very interested in this level of technology once we're ready to build 10, 15, 20 units for them. So no, there's definitely massive scalability and potential, but now we're heads down focused over, say, the next 6 months to 8 months to get this next generation design done, dialed, ready to go, and build a bunch of them.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I hope that for Octane Coffee, everything goes in the good way, and for you too and your team, of course, because as I told you, when I watched how it works and I was doing my research, I was so impressed by the technology that you develop with your team. So I think that is going to be the future for I mean in the restaurants, in the coffee, and in general the gastronomy industry. So I think that is going to be in a good way for you and your team, and I am really happy to see this everywhere, as you said, that in Europe, in the US, in South America. I'm really happy for that. And now that we were talking about all your journey, what do you think that is going to be your first advice for the people that is starting maybe with this journey, that creating a company, startup?
Business and just the entrepreneurial journey. People like to see someone like me that seems successful. Things are all great. Things are moving forward. It's great. But there's high highs and there's low lows. There's deals that we locked in, everything was good, and then they literally fell apart the week later. There's also just rough times. You have to be able to weather both those ups and downs and just kind of keep moving forward at a good, steady pace. So it's not about a quick payday. It's definitely not about doing things fast and cutting corners, like 1% a day, but just that steady, slow chug. And sometimes days are literally spending 8 hours sitting in a chair sending emails. Like that is a day. It's an accomplishment. Nothing seems to happen, but then it's funny that these little things snowball. And so all of a sudden, one small conversation becomes one bigger conversation a week from then, becomes a month later, becomes a year later, becomes $1 million check that they're investing in your company. So it's funny to see that all of these things take time. And so like, don't get discouraged. It is part of the process, but get ready to weather those storms of the lows and the highs and get through it. As long as you've got find an idea, find a vision, find a passion that you really, really care about, that's going to help you get through and keep making forward progress. So don't do something because it's trendy. Don't do something because you think it's going to be a good thing. But if you don't have the skill set, you don't have the knowledge, you don't have those things, you can always build them. You can always learn them. You can always grow into that person that you need to be. It does take time, so don't get discouraged. So I would say the entrepreneurial journey can be very, very fulfilling. It can also be very lonely. And that's one of those things that I know even in and of myself. I have unique problems that I don't know anybody else on planet Earth has ever had. So all of a sudden it's like, darn, I'd love to ask so-and-so about this, or I'd love, like, it's weird, the problems, and just get creative. Figure out who you can bring into your circle, into your mentor group, because you're going to need, sometimes it's a shoulder to cry on, sometimes it's somebody to vent to, but also it's just like, hey, I got this weird situation. What would you do? Because there's not always one right answer. There's plenty of good answers. And it can be lonely. So make sure that you're surrounding yourself with good people. So my experience in corporate life, young engineer getting out of college, 22 years old, and I got stuck in cubicles basically with guys that have been there 20, 30, 40 years, approaching retirement. they were jaded, they were unhappy, they didn't like management, they didn't like the company anymore. It was just like, it was really soul crushing to a young kid that wanted to make really impactful change. On the flip side, as soon as I jumped into consulting and started working directly with small and medium business owners and other consultants, there's like this eternal hope and optimism, and it's not happiness per se, because they have rough days just like I do. But even on those roughest of days, you'll chat with them and be like, oh, we'll get through it. We'll figure it out. Like there's this optimism and like, this is not the end. Well, this is just a crappy Tuesday. We'll get through it. And like that helps you get through those rough times and keep making progress. So it's surround yourself with other like-minded, good-hearted people that are there to see you succeed and help you in any way possible. So I know that I've definitely had to surround myself with those people in the past.
Yeah, and as you said, don't lose the positive attitude, because as you said, you will have high and lows all the time. And I think that sometimes when we have an idea and we want to create something, we are so excited, but when we see something that is really going not so good, we just go down and we lost the positive attitude. And I think that is really important, as you said, to have people around you that keep putting you up when you need it.
Yes, no, certainly.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Adrian, for being here and share all your experience with us. It was really cool to learn from you, and where we can find you and Octane Coffee, social media, website you would like to share.
Yeah, so our website is getoctanecoffee.com. So GET, octanecoffee.com. There's a bunch of contact forms and things on there. Otherwise, I know we've got a social media presence. I think it's at Get Octane Coffee on most of the platforms. We're working on significantly revamping that, obviously. Welcome to kind of put on my marketing hat and keep spinning. So, no, we'd love to chat with you. If anybody wants to reach out, they've got ideas, questions, comments, we'd love to chat with you.
Okay, perfect. And for everybody that is watching, be sure to visit our website, buildernation.io. You can also connect with us on LinkedIn by following Builder Nation for the latest updates and exclusive content. Thank you all for being part of this amazing community. We will see you in the next episode. Thanks again, Adrian, for joining us today.
Thank you.